And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I am J.C. Kenney. Happy Taco Tuesday, folks. I tell you what, we have something very special and very unique for y'all today, so you can thank us all later. But until then, Sarah, I think it's time to get bookish.
Yes, we are super delighted to welcome back Melinda Mullet to the show as we talk about not a book that she has out in the world, but a fun new project that is going to put you guys to sleep, which is kind of a weird compliment to say in this case. But Melinda, thank you so much for coming to hang out with us today to talk about your brand new podcast, which I have been listening to a few of the episodes right before bedtime, helping lull me into my somewhat pleasant slumber. I don't know if listening to these. I guess they kind of do set you up for some good dreams, just because of the way that the cozy mystery pulls you in. But I'm going down a rabbit hole too much. First, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks. Thanks, guys, for having me again, and excited to be here to talk about something, well, not other than books. This is actually all about books, but other than one of my immediate releases.
Yes, we have Tranquil Tales from Death's Door, which is such a poetic title, number one. Would love to know how you came up with that. But tell us about this project as a whole, because I'm sure our viewers are very interested to know, like, where did the idea for a sleep story podcast come from?
Well, actually, it came from my children. As I said earlier, not my children. They're 24 and 28. So the young ladies who are in my life that once lived in my house, they are both very much into podcasts for going to sleep stories. I did not do that until about 21, I guess. I was dealing with a situation where I had a mother with dementia who was in her 90s that I was caring for, and kid issues and everything. We all reach that point where in our sleep just gets shattered and we're not sleeping anymore. And I started using the Calm app, and they had some great podcasts on there, and they had sleep stories that they put up. And for your people who don't know what a sleep story is, it's a very benign story that is told very, very gently. The whole idea is that you are listening to something that's not going to distract you too much with things that are going to excite you, which seems like antithetical. Do you really want to listen to a story that's not exciting? But at sleep time, you do, because that is what will bring you into a state of sleep.
So I guess so. Let me ask you this, kind of along that line. I guess what I'm trying to come up with the words for here is Tranquil Tales from Death's Door. You talk about very kind of quiet, soothing stories, yet you have Death's Door in the title of your podcast, which, as again, we were kind of talking before the show, it's like, I'm thinking, when, one of the highest compliment we as authors get is when somebody says, I lost a bunch of sleep.
Yeah.
Because I stayed up all night. And now you're doing the opposite.
Right.
So can you kind of tell us how you accomplish that opposite, that you're going to help us get to sleep instead of keeping us up all night turning the pages?
Well, the idea here is that this is a sleep story, but it is for lovers of mysteries. And although we do some traditional writers, we do mostly cozy writers for a very specific reason, and that is that cozy writers, They, beguile us with location. They create characters that for us feel like found family. Series usually we are going back to over and over again because we enjoy being with these people. We feel comfortable in this location. It's like watching a TV show that you love over and over again because you just feel comfortable with those people. And the idea here is that we are having a different cozy mystery author each week who will write a piece for us that is then turned into an audio file that you can listen to at bedtime. And they take a deep dive into something in their environment or with their characters that perhaps they wouldn't have time to put into a full-length novel because, we all have editors who are like, oh, no, 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 you can't go that deeply into that. Let's get it moving, get it moving, getting moving. So you have locations. And I mean, when you think about Cabot Cove and St. Mary's Mead and Three Pines, they are wonderful places that you would love to visit. So, for example, you might, if you're thinking about Three Pines, you might have somebody who's writing about making the croissants in the morning in a very detailed and methodical way. And you kind of drift into this story. You get that ambiance and it's a lot of fun, but it does tend to put you to sleep. And if you start listening to a story on a given week from an author that you don't know, you may find that you're quite intrigued by their location or their character. And although you're not into the the killing of people and all the clues and the red herrings at bedtime when you're trying to actually go to sleep, you may decide, oh, I want to come back tomorrow and look that author up and start on that series or take a look at that series because it's something that interests me. But that is why we chose mysteries, and particularly cozy mysteries, because they are just that. It's a warm, cozy place that people enjoy going to and enjoy visiting.
Yeah, I don't know how many times that I have read a review of a cozy mystery where someone is like, "Wow, like I would love to live here, or I'd love to spend more time just walking around like this, downtown area of a cozy mystery town." And so giving authors the opportunity to flesh out some of those details, not only is really fun, but it's also, I think, would feel like very joyous for the authors that you've had involved, Melinda. So, if you'd like, tell us about some of the folks that you started off the podcast with, and maybe some of if you have like an anecdote about the creation of one of the sleep stories that we can share with our audience members.
Sure. I talk to a lot of people, friends and authors that I know just, from a professional standpoint, and people were very excited about the idea because I think we're all largely in the same boat. We all are struggling with what's going on in the world right now. For everybody, I think it's a very stressful, I, like a lot of other writers, because we do tend to be very high-strung people in some levels, struggle with those anxious and repetitive and intrusive thoughts that you get at nighttime. And I was talking to folks about the fact that the new scientific research is showing that when you do listen to gentle words at bedtime, the same way we used to do for, our children when we were reading bedtime stories to them, it does help to reduce your stress. It helps to lower your heart rate, all of these things that drive you into a deeper and more restful sleep. So it's very much positive. If you have any doubt about the importance and the impact of gentle words, I mean, you really just have to think about the reverse side of the coin, which we're all experiencing right now, which is, a lot of very stress-inducing, hateful, negative speech and what it does to you. I mean, how many of us wake up in the morning thinking, "Oh my God, did I dream yesterday?" And it's like, "Oh no, that really happened."
That happened. Yeah.
Yeah, so that feeling of anxiety and stress that's brought on by manipulative words from one side can also work in your favor to the other side. That gentle words, peaceful settings can put you into a more relaxed and a deeper and more productive sleep. So talking to friends about this, they were excited. I mean, there's a lot of writers who literally have whole files of material that they had to rip out because, it was destroying your word count, or it was taking you too far off the main track of the story. Doesn't mean it's not interesting pieces about, whatever scenes they're writing or the characters they're developing. So we launched this podcast on not March, May 4th, and we have a new author each Sunday, which we say fight off the Sunday scaries with something new to listen to on Sunday night. Our first author was a lovely woman called Michelle Cullen, who has written Field Guide to Murder. Great book if you haven't seen that one. And that's a lovely sort of older character, younger caretaker. But this gentleman had a fascinating history as an anthropologist, traveling all over the world. And she does a lovely piece of walking through his memories as he's looking through the cupboard in his kitchen at the various teas that he has in there. And each one of the teas, whether it's China or India, or brings back memories of his travels and his trips. And he walks through that. So it's kind of a travelogue, which I think a lot of people really enjoyed that, because it's something different. Like I said, it's not part of the actual, story that she's telling, but it's certainly good background. We've also had L.A. Chandler. She does the Lane Sanders mysteries, which are set in the 1920s in New York. I don't know if you're familiar with her books.
Mhm. Yeah,
Her,
love those
yeah,
books.
she does a great job. She did a one on walking home through New York City in the spring and just, watching the lights come up and the trees blooming and the things that you see, and going into a little Italian restaurant and all of those things. We've had Maddie Day, who writes, she does a lot of series. She does the C.C.
Mhm.
Barton mysteries and the Cozy Caper bookstores. I'm trying to think of all of them, so many of them. But she did one on the California wine country that was a
Mhm.
lovely little wander. Um, we've also had Peggy Earhart, who does Knit and Nibble, who did the most amazing description of making a rhubarb pie that I've ever seen. I mean, or ever heard.
Wow.
You listen to it, and the only non-sleepy thing about that one is you kind of want to get up and think, I want to try making a
I'm
pie.
hungry.
Done one. I think I could do that. I think I could do that. We've had Molly McRae, who does the
Oh.
Haunted Yarn Shop and
Mhm.
Highland bookstores and all that. She just did a lovely one on shells and being on Ocracoke Island.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Cool.
And walking the beach and the town and all the things that go with that. So much fun. We also do every second Sunday, we pull a mystery that is something from the Wayback. It's like the
Mhm.
classic Wayback Machine. So the first one we did was Caroline Keene's The Mystery of the Old Clock, which was the very first Nancy Drew mystery. And
Yeah.
you read it, we have to take from the Project Gutenberg because they are not copyrighted from
I was gonna add, I was like, because I
the old
noticed
version.
that on your on the list, and I was
Mhm.
like, oh, like that's such a great idea just to like read like bits of from Nancy
Mhm.
Drew, and but I was like, how does she get around the copyright of this?
Yeah. So
But
we
you
we
just
use
answered it.
Project Gutenberg. Yeah, and it's great. So we did Nancy was the first one because
Mhm.
I've had a lot of people say that part of what got them to be readers, to love particular genres, whether it's mystery or anything else, was being read to as a child by
Mhm.
a loving source, a parent or an aunt or uncle, grandparent. So Nancy Drew, I think, takes a lot of people back to that memory
Yep.
of, oh, I remember what that was like. We did one the second Sunday for June. We did the Red House Mystery, which is the only mystery that A. Milne ever wrote. And of course, A. Milne is
Oh,
the
yeah.
author of Winnie the
Winnie
Pooh,
the Pooh.
and it's
Yep.
the 100th anniversary of Winnie the Pooh. So it's been fun, delving into his catalog a little bit more. Milne was actually a quite prolific playwright, and he was a novelist as well. But he only ever did one mystery that he did for his father because his father was a huge mystery fan. So
Oh.
we're reading some from that for the second Sunday of this time. So.
Oh, So fun. And I want to check in really quickly, Melinda, with our folks in the chat because they've got some comments for you. We've got Farmhouse Reader saying good afternoon. We have Mark Baker saying hello. We have Susan Worrell saying hello all. Farmhouse Reader is one of the folks that has never heard of sleep stories before and is finding it very intriguing. And we've got Regina the Southernista saying, sorry, I'm late. Hello, everybody. Regina, you're here right on time. No worries. We are having a very peaceful and hopefully we're giving everybody some ideas for what to do this evening as they're preparing to wind down for bed, as they pick up this amazing podcast that Melinda is working on. Melinda, you mentioned before we went live that you do some editing for the pieces that you receive. Can you tell us a little bit about that process? Because is that a role that you have kind of played before, or is this your first kind of your first stint putting on the editor hat versus the author hat?
Um, well, most of my life as a lawyer, but I was also an English major, medieval lit, in fact, undergraduate, and I've done some teaching, and I certainly spent a lot of time teaching senior partners in a law firm how to construct a sentence. But so editing is not unfamiliar to me, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy it. Part of it is when you start to read a story that somebody has given you out loud, things catch your ear that don't when you just sort of run over it. So
Mm-hmm.
I have an author whose piece I'm working on for this week, and it's going to be an interesting story about a Montana dog rescue that
Oh.
is going to be a new series. Yeah, it should be very cool. But she was doing a little bit of a background piece
Mm-hmm.
about the first dog that got rescued. And as I'm reading through some of it, ended up having to write to the author and say, these descriptions are fabulous. And when they're in the book, they're very evocative and they're going to sound tremendous. But there's a couple of times when I'm reading along about, the dog who's lost in the meadow, who's, chomping away on the little mice and things he finds in the field. And I thought, oh, if I were drifting off to sleep as a dog person, I would immediately have gone, no. And, just a couple of other little things. Sometimes, I have no problem swearing. I'm perfectly fine with it. But sometimes in the bedtime stories, I'll say, do you mind if we just slide past that in case somebody does find it offensive? And,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't do major editing, but I will sometimes take things down a tiny bit, or I might say, hey, this is really good. Could you tell us more about this location or this place or this thing that they're doing?
Wow.
So then, I guess, how long is each broadcast or podcast? Because one of the things I'm imagining is, I'm listening and I'm loving it. Then I fall asleep. And then the next morning it's like, okay, I have no idea how much I missed, or so just to give folks an idea, how long are each of your podcasts?
They range probably 18 to 20 minutes, which is about what it takes the average person to drift off if you're in a relaxed state. And of course, if you do drift off, it was useful and it means that you can actually use it again because nothing will send you off faster than listening to something you've heard before. So you start it again, you'll probably fall asleep a little bit sooner than you did the time before. Um, and again, it's background material. So hopefully when you wake up in the morning and you think, God, that was really interesting, I'm going to go look that person up. And I will
Mm-hmm.
say, we do have a website as well, and that is just www.tranquiltales at death's doorstep or from death's doorstep, I'm sorry. And if you go on there, you will get the biographies and the links, although there are links on the podcast page as well, but you'll get links to folks' books and their websites and everything. So if you want to learn more about the authors, it's all right there. We
And
also have
for
quite,
Oh,
sorry.
go. Sorry, Melinda. I didn't mean to cut you off.
We also have things on the website about the science for people who are a little, who are maybe intrigued by, why people do this and why this has become so much of a thing.
Mm-hmm. And for our folks who may not be familiar with how to access podcasts or these sleep stories, if you're a iPhone user, you'll have access to the podcast app where all of these are free to listen to. And you can actually see Tranquil Tales from Death's Doorstep right there on my homepage. If you're a Spotify user, you can just go into Spotify and search right for it. It's so nice because you guys don't have any ads running in your podcast. So you're not like halfway through a very like relaxing story and all of a sudden it's like, oh, like, buy this. So it's very, very easy to access as long as you have a phone or something that I guess you could probably
Computer. Yeah,
listen
you
to
can
it
do
on your
it.
computer and like have it Bluetooth. If you have a Bluetooth speaker, you can have it hooked up near your bed. But super, super accessible, and it's a free tool that you can use to help fall asleep. Um, Melinda, we have a lot of writers and authors who are a part of our audience. If they were interested
Android
in some,
also. So, oh, yeah.
oh yes,
See, it's on
there's
Android too.
yes the
But yeah, we are actually on almost every platform. I think we're on 7 or 8 different platforms. Again, we don't pay to load material. You don't pay as a listener to listen to it. I don't pay the writers who are, I mean, this may turn some of them off. We don't pay the writers who are doing this, but it is just another interesting, fun way to connect with readers and to
Mhm.
connect readers and writers together because, you do find out a lot more about your writers' characters and get a
Yeah.
chance to engage in a conversation with them about, how they're doing things and what they're doing. So.
For sure. So if any of our viewers who are writers or thinking about like, oh, like maybe putting this together would be something fun to try, is there a process for submissions to the podcast?
Yeah, you can reach out either through my website, which is probably the easiest, which is melindamullet.com. That is also connected on the Tranquil Tales from Death's Doorstep website. You can do all that. If you're on the website, under each of the authors, you'll also see profiles. You'll see a listen now. You can go directly to their sleep story. You can also click straight through to their Instagram, to their Facebook, to their websites, all kinds of information, and buy links if you really are just like, I really want to read this particular series because I'm
Yeah.
excited by what I'm hearing. So.
This is so cool. I tell you, my wife, as soon as she gets home from work tonight, I'm going to tell her about this because she struggles to fall asleep and it drives her crazy because she says, I head to bed about 1 o'clock. I think I'm tired. And then I get in bed and then her mind won't shut down. And so I've got
It's
something to
a,
suggest to her.
I'm going to put my old lady hat on for a minute. It's like you hit menopause and everything you thought you knew about sleep and relaxation just goes right out the window. And I think even for men, I mean, my husband is reaching a point where things are starting to get to him more. I feel like all of us are so bombarded every day with
Mm,
information, and we're processing and we're thinking and we're being asked to do things more and more rapidly and to respond to things more quickly. It just gets harder and harder to turn the switch and make it all go away.
Mhm.
And we're all doing Netflix till late at night. And
mm,
I mean, this is kind of the equivalent when you've watched a really good juicy mystery or something on Netflix or PBS or whatever, and you're getting ready to go to bed and you think, oh, maybe we'll just put that, Stanley Tucci travel show on for a few minutes because I
mm.
just need to make my brain not be going when I go to bed. So this is, kind of the equivalent of that. We're stepping back and we're just talking about things in a very calm, meditative way.
Mm,
And we usually open every story with just, a few minutes of, think, relax, breathe, make yourself comfortable, get yourself in a settled place. Headphones or earbuds are really good because they block out the background noise. If the dog is fluffing around or whatever, you don't hear that. And it's a good way to just take a few breaths, listen. And for a lot of people, it really does work.
yeah. No, I am one of those people. So if folks, if you are having difficulty shutting your brain off, it's such a I love that you've used the word, Melinda, gentle so much. Like to me, like that's like the perfect way describe, it's just a like nice way to settle your
Right.
mind for the day. Um,
And
and
and the words really help too. I mean, I have a lot of friends who are like, "Well, I listen to music." I mean, I can listen to music and the soothing music is nice, maybe the brown noise, the white noise, whatever. But most of the time, my brain keeps going. So now I have
Mhm.
just got a very discordantly melodious background track going to the crazy thoughts that are still going on in my head, you know.
Yep.
So when you are able to focus on that story and follow the words as they go along, it really does kind of it just shifts your focus, and that's
Mhm.
good. And we call it sinking into stories where all is calm, all is safe, and all is well. And that's our little mantra that we do at the end of each introduction. And it's so far it seems to be working.
Oh, I love it.
Nice.
And really quickly, a kind of learning about your recording process. Have you found that, because as you may have been able to tell from JC and myself, we sometimes struggle getting our words out. That's what people love about our show is we kind of bumble along until we get there. Um, but you have to deliver a polished, like just very straight story. Do you find when you're recording that you run into challenges? Because I feel like I would just be stumbling over my words like every other sentence or so. Like, have you had to, learn
Yeah, I
how to
mean,
record?
having a cold for 3 weeks was a real nightmare, but you do have to you do kind of slip into another persona when
Hmm.
you're doing this. And I have some friends who are actors who will do some of them in the future, and we have other, but always just that voice that you settle into that is peaceful, restful, not rushed. I mean, we do tend to, when we read things, we tend to rush through it. So if nothing else, you'll hear that the pacing on these stories is quite a bit slower, and the pacing gets slower as we go through.
Hmm.
So when you're getting to the end of a story, you find
Oh,
that the words are slowing down, and the thoughts are getting softer, and
oh
not
gosh.
so.
Oh, cool.
If you start talking like that, I'm gonna drift off. It's so
Yeah.
peaceful. It's such a peaceful way to just like unwind from the day.
Yeah.
So folks,
So,
make sure you head
yeah.
to your podcast player, follow, subscribe, however your podcast player does it.
Exactly.
Um,
Follow, like, subscribe.
yep.
Subscribe only means that not that you pay money. For those of you who are not familiar with the podcast, it simply means that it will be, you'll get a notification when the next piece comes up or the next piece. That's what subscribers get, not
Yes.
not
And
not a bill.
Yeah.
we'll put the uh, website in our show notes for today, but just so that folks know, again, it's Tranquil Tales from Death's Doorstep, and you can find it wherever you get your podcasts. And we thought, as a fun way to kind of close out our show, we usually do a what are we listening to? What are we being entertained by? But today we're going to do something a little bit different in it could be current or it could be something from the past. What has been a favorite bedtime story, or another like a sleep story experience that you have come across? So, Melinda, any chance that you can kind of kick us off? You've mentioned the Calm app before, which is a great resource for folks
Yeah.
getting started in
Um,
this.
and yeah, and absolutely, there's a lot of pieces on there that are great. The Calm app, I will hasten to add, for those of you who are interested, is probably $80. I think it is a year. So you do
Hmm.
pay for that service, but they do have some very interesting readers. I um I confess one of my favorite books is The Lord of the Rings. But
Oh,
when Andy Serkis is reading it and it is so long and I've read
Mhm.
it so many times, that often is one that I will sink into at night just to listen. I mean, it may not be the calmest, but our friend Tolkien was very heavy on his descriptive narrative. So
Yeah.
you could spend a long time getting lost literally in the trees and the mountains.
All
I've
right.
definitely
How about
listened to the what was it? I always pronounce it wrong, but it's like the Simularian.
the
Brilliant, yeah.
Silmarillion?
Yep. Because Andy
Okay,
Serkis, he reads that.
The nerds chime
Oh,
ins.
yeah.
Yep. And he did that one is I've definitely listened to it and just fallen asleep. Oh gosh, he's got a great voice. JC, what about you? Any bedtime stories that have always brought you joy or sleep?
Not so much stories that I listen to. But it makes me think of, I remember when, my two kiddos, who are also adults now, reading to them when they were little. And one that comes to mind, well, with both kiddos, read lots of Dr. Seuss, which was fun, always a
Mhm.
lot of fun. But I remember reading The Iron Giant, the novel,
Mhm.
the YA novel, young adult kids novel by Ted Hughes, to my older kiddo. And I remember that was a lot of fun,
Mhm.
because it was, one of those things that kind of creates that special parent kiddo bond, because you're spending that time together. And so those were some fun times that I can definitely remember. Yeah, I remember reading that one.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
does.
I
It brings
was.
great memories. I have two kids who were absolutely addicted to both books and Starbucks because when they were children, we would go to the Starbucks, two glasses of milk and a coffee and a big chair, and we would be reading the Penderwicks or whatever story it was that was the tale of the moment for them.
Oh, that's cute. I
Yeah,
was
that's cool.
definitely I was definitely a Nancy Drew before bedtime kid. But then once I think my dad would read them to me, and I think we got through probably the first eight books
Mhm.
before I really hooked into reading and was like, I'm gonna just keep reading these myself. So we had to come up with a different series to read at bedtime, and we did the Brian Jacques Redwall series,
Yeah.
and with all of the little critters.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
so such a beautiful story, and definitely, I think we read most of them, if not all of them.
And
And it
everybody in their
was,
cozy little warrens, all
yep.
the little animals in their cozy little
I
homes.
still recite the poem about Martin the warrior and Matthias and all of all the lore that they had in their worlds. And yes, that was a fun place to get lost in. Um,
That is how
which
we all became readers.
Yep.
Exactly, yes. And it's a beautiful thing too. Melinda, this was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much
Yes.
for reaching out to share this project with us, because it is so I think it's just this soothing balm that we need right now, to help folks kind of process where we are right now in history and in the world. And definitely is a fun way to take our minds off of what's going on. So thank you so much for stopping by and sharing this with us.
Thank you for having us. I hope everybody gets a chance to listen to something peaceful and maybe find a new author that you love.
Yes, yes. And
Cheers
so,
to that.
folks, make sure that you head to your favorite podcast player, give Tranquil Tales from Death's Doorstep a follow, and enjoy your sleep tonight. Hopefully it's peaceful so that you can be well rested for our season finale that we're having on Thursday. We're kicking things off at 4 p.m. Eastern, on YouTube, Twitch, and Substack. We're going to be having some friends stop by and say hello to everybody. So we'll hope that you can join us for a fun bookish time as always. Remember, as we head into our summer months, that make sure you are registered to vote, and that you know where your polling place is, so that you know the power of your voice as we move forward in the world, because that's what our power is, and that's what we need to do. So thank you everybody for being here today. We appreciate you, and until Thursday, stay bookish everybody. Have a good one. Bye folks.